WikiLeaks documents that expose more Clinton cartel corruption. One explosive email shows the former president lining up an eye-popping $6 million for his foundation from Sheikh Mohammed of Ethiopia with a mere phone call. One aide writing it would be crazy to go all the way to Ethiopia for a conference, quote, unless the Sheikh Mo, has sent us a $6 million check. Longtime Clinton aide Bruce Lindsay replies that if the call is made, quote, it will help us get the $6 million. I think he should call. The Clinton campaign now says if Hillary Clinton is elected, the foundation will, well, they'll swear off foreign money. A newly leaked email, however, from March 2nd, the night the New York Times revealed Clinton used that private email account as Secretary of State, shows campaign chairman John Podesta writing Cheryl Mills this, not to sound like Lanny, referring to Lanny Davis, another attorney and counselor to the Clintons, but we are going to have to dump all those emails, so better do so sooner than later. A reference to damage control expert Lanny Davis, known for urging the Clintons to err on the side of transparency. 2 days after that email, the Benghazi Congressional Committee issued a subpoena requiring Clinton to turn over all of her emails relating to Libya. We know what followed. 33,000 emails were never seen again, erased with the bleach bit. Joining us tonight, former Reagan White House political director, Great America PAC strategist, Fox News contributor Ed Rollins, political communications expert and partner at Maslansky and Partners, Lee Carter. Good to have you both with us.
Thank you.
This is extraordinary. The Justice Department puts in a man, arguably one of John Podesta's closest friends, into the investigation into the emails that have just been reopened. Is this just in your face on the part of President Obama and the public, and all standards and ethics be damned?
I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's smart on behalf of President Obama. I think one of the criticisms we have right now is there's this whole idea that there's collusion, backdoor politics, that we're operating not in the interest of the people. This isn't going to help Hillary Clinton. It's going to hurt her.
And this, you have been in the White House. You know how these things work. He is, by ordering, obviously, Attorney General Loretta Lynch to put Kazak in this thing's center stage. He is really sending a loud, strong message of, put it kindly, of rejection to both standards and Congress.
He's a very unique guy. He was the Assistant Secretary for Legislative Affairs, which meant he was the person who worked the Hill for the Justice Department, so he knows the Congress. My sense is he basically is a Clinton loyalist, and he will basically be able to find what they need to find to make sure it doesn't get to the forefront. I think it's a terrible mistake on their part. They need to look cleaner than Caesar's wife, and they haven't at all in any of this.
You know, we're going to be talking with the former assistant director of the FBI here about what this is doing, because this is also a very lousy signal to the FBI, its director, its deputy director, to all of the field agents involved to do this, because this puts a political tone to this from the outset in the second phase, if you will. Let's talk about the phase we're in terms of these polls. What we witnessed today in the polls is remarkable. The ABC Washington Post poll is, you know, this is overwhelming to see Donald Trump now in the lead by 1 point, but in the lead.
It's the first time since May, and I think that it's really interesting because if you're looking at the whole average of the polls, he's now narrowed it down to a 2-point race. If you can remember, just a few days ago, we were at a 7-point race. It's an absolutely amazing phenomenon.
A week ago, it was 12 points.
Well, that was on the ABC poll, but I'm talking about on all the average. And so what we're seeing here is
I don't think that average, by the way, let me argue this. I don't think that average means much right now, because so much of it is a legacy from when there had been no Friday take place. This is the reopening of the FBI changed everything.
Well, I think, and we've always been saying that if this becomes a 2 or 3 point race, it's going to favor Donald Trump, because I don't think the polls accurately reflect all of the new voters that he's registered, because he has brought in new voters who haven't voted in a very, very long time. We have record numbers of Republicans registering to vote. And we also see that there's this Bradley effect, that when people are interviewed over the telephone, they're not as likely to say that they're voting for Donald Trump as they are online. And most of these polls are telephone polls. So I think it's really important to understand that Donald Trump has, in fact, outperformed polls all the way way through the primary, and I would imagine will continue to do so today.
No reason to expect that he wouldn't.
No, there's an intensity on the Republican side. Traditionally, Democrats have higher numbers. Republicans vote in greater numbers and more intensity. He really has an intense voter turnout today at this point. So my sense is the polls, you got to watch these state polls. They're closing. He basically, I think, is right within a point or two of putting this thing over, and it's anybody that doesn't think he has a shot is crazy.
Let's talk about intensity and give it some shape and form. What intensity we know is good, but
yes.
How good is it and how bad is it for her?
So enthusiasm is one of the most important things that's going to dictate whether or not you're going to go to the polls. Donald Trump has picked up almost 10 points in some polls of enthusiasm in the last since the email. Since Friday. Since last Friday. And now Hillary Clinton has dropped.
It's hard to believe it was just for that.
I know.
Those few days ago.
Hillary Clinton has lost between 5 and 7 points of enthusiasm just in the last same few days. So you're seeing a huge gap. And what that's likely to do is drive people to the polls in favor of Donald Trump. If you're losing enthusiasm, you're less likely to go to the polls. Bottom line is if something else more important comes up, you're not going to go.
And the greatest enthusiasm in the two Obama races were the African-American supporters. They're not intense in this race. In a state like North Carolina, that's a critical state, black population is very, very important. They're not as intense there, and I think the vote is going to be much less.
That's a really important point because so many of the polls are looking at what happened from voter turnout the last time, not this time. So that's
And early voting. We're looking at these tremendous numbers of people who have participated in early voting, 22 million, and as many, some say as many as 50 million will be voting early before November 8th. How important are they? Give us a sense of where that vote stands right now.
The fact that people are voting early doesn't mean they get to vote on Election Day. And so sometimes people misinterpret the early voting and think, my goodness, that means there's going to be way more people on Election Day. Sometimes your voters have voted early and there's not quite the intensity on Election Day. So my sense is that we're pretty much matching them, Republicans and Democrats.
Who's leading right now in the early voting?
I think in the states that matter, we're very confident in the states that we need. And they obviously have more states, so places like California, elsewhere.
Well, those states.
Florida is really, really important, and it looks like Donald Trump is doing very well in Florida.
Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania's doing better. At least
I heard better. I didn't hear good.
No, but better is good. It's closing. Yeah. He wins those and holds the 24 states that Romney won last time. He's got 272 delegates, electoral votes, and that's the game.
And I just think it's hard to read into early voting because it's certain demographics, certain things are going on, and it's hard to predict.
I'm not reading. I'm not interpreting. I'm just curious about what the numbers are right now. We'll leave that fancy thinking to you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, Lee Carter.
Thank you.
Ed Rollins.
Great to be here.
Appreciate it. We're awaiting a Trump rally that will begin in Wisconsin. It's set to begin shortly. Governor Scott Walker at the microphone, as you see there now. Having Scott Walker on your side in the great state of Wisconsin is a big deal. The most important political personage there, Paul Ryan notwithstanding. And as soon as Donald Trump takes the stage, we'll be going there to see what he's got to say. We're coming right back with a day of an immense number of developments. Stay with us. We'll be right back with much more. Stay with us. The FBI today released heavily redacted documents related to President Bill Clinton's pardon of Mark Rich, a billionaire fugitive who was wanted in the United States for tax evasion, an alleged pay-to-play scandal going back some 15 years. Rich was pardoned on the last day of Clinton's presidency in 2001. And Rich's ex-wife, Denise, had given, powerfully to the Democratic National Committee and the entity that would become the Clinton Foundation. The federal prosecutor in charge of that case against Rich from 1987 to 1993 was none other than James Comey. Comey later said he was stunned over that pardon. And there's another extraordinary connection within this web of the Clinton cartel. Peter Kadzik, the Justice Department official who informed Congress about the newly reactivated Hillary Clinton email probe, was hired back in 2000 as lobbyist for Mark Rich. Quite a world we live in, is it not? My next guest compares the Clintons to a crime family and the Clinton Foundation he describes as a cesspool. Joining us tonight, I'm pleased to say, the former Assistant Director of the FBI, James Kallstrom. Great to have you with us.
You can't make this up, can you, Lou?
No, it would be impossible. And to think that Kanzik has played such a role. Also, John Podesta, chairman of the Clinton campaign, who was then chief of staff for Bill Clinton.
Apparently very close friends.
And pals. Went to law school together. It's amazing. Also amazing, the reopening of this case against, against the, to find out what happened with these emails that were in the possession, apparently, of a disgraced former congressman and his wife, the senior aide to the Democratic nominee. What did it take to reopen this, in your judgment?
I was very surprised when I heard about Director Comey writing the letter. I think he's on the right path there. I think when the FBI gets notified of criminality, they have to look at it. I mean, you know, you don't put it off, you deal with it. But I think something had to be said to Director Comey that was pretty substantial. Now, the agents have to go through all these, what is it, 70,000 or 80,000? 650,000 emails. So they're doing keyword searching. They're doing, you know, they're putting it in batches, and then they have to get additional orders. Right. You know, the original investigative team in New York that was looking at that pervert, you know, was authorized to look at his stuff. But once they saw the metadata, you know, this massive metadata, you know, there's something really big in here. But
so you agree with those who say it would take something substantial for Comey to have gone this far? He's not sitting here looking at a pig in a poke.
No, I don't think so, but I don't think he really knows how big the pig is or how big the poke is.
I got it.
And, you know, and when you look at it this way, could there be anything more important than the stuff that they didn't look at the first time around? Right. Top secret, you know, SAP, Special Access Program. They shot people at firing squads for disclosing this stuff in World War II. And even in current
They're going to prison.
You go to Leavenworth for 20, 30, 40 years for this stuff.
It just right now seems that the only good guys in this are the agents who have been hunkering down, pursuing a public corruption investigation of the Clintons, the Clinton cartel, the folks who have been trying to figure out what's going on with Anthony Weiner. And you just wonder what in the world's going on in the minds of those agents, because they're in even more pressure now.
Let me tell you, the agents are not the problem here. The problem are the people running the Justice Department, you know, and in the prior iteration, you know, the people running the FBI that made some choices that I think they probably wish they hadn't made. Right. But, you know, Justice shut down the Clinton Foundation investigation, you know, and look at that outrageous sewer that is. I mean, just one example. I mean, Haiti. You people out there, just Google Haiti and see what happened. They collected hundreds of millions of dollars. Virtually none of it went to Haiti.
Right. And we know that there is pay for play across the board with the Clintons.
Right.
We've described it. I mean, we look at WikiLeaks. We see that within the influence and the conflicts of interest within the Justice Department. Andrew McCabe, the deputy director of the, and his wife.
Not good judgment.
Terrible judgment.
Terrible judgment.
On two levels. One, taking the money to begin with, his wife making that decision, and he not recusing himself. Do you see hope for this thing to come to a reasonably quick
I think it depends totally on the election, Lou. I think if Hillary
Nothing before the election.
I don't think you're going to see it. You know, the FBI can't be giving bits and pieces out. You know, that's not their business. They really don't give anything out, really, till they come to a conclusion. But, you know, they're not going to have any idea of what the whole scope and breadth of this thing is, you know, in any kind of time.
Has there been a lack of political courage on the part of these administrations, Democrat and Republican, since Bill Clinton left the White House, to bring this Clinton cartel to justice? I mean, this is outrageous what we witnessed. Yeah. They had to know what
the people should be mad at the Democrats caused all this. They put someone as their candidate who came with a long trail of lies and betrayals of the rule of law. Right. And, you know, so, you know, what are they to expect?
You know, I'm going to ask you to wait just a moment to talk with James Kallstrom. We're going to right now, Donald Trump is talking in Wisconsin and talking about this very thing. Let's join
mounting legal troubles. But she has really no one else to blame but herself. Hillary is the one who set up an illegal private email server to shield criminal activity. You know that. Hillary is the one who engaged in a corrupt pay-for-play scheme at the State Department. Hillary is the one who endangered national security by sending classified information on an insecure server. Hillary is the one who lied so many times to Congress and to the FBI. 39 times to the FBI. And each lie, I mean, each time she said it, remember, she just, right, she said, sorry, I don't recall, 39 times. Well, each time she said that, that was also a lie, and I'm not even including that. Hillary is the one who made 13 phones disappear, some with a hammer. It was Hillary who destroyed 33,000 emails after receiving a subpoena from the United States Congress. After. And she is also the one, this just came up recently. By the way, if that were Reince or me or somebody, it would have been the biggest story in the world. She also accepted debate questions given to her in advance and then used them to cheat against Bernie Sanders.
Well, Donald Trump
Instead of
going strongly after Hillary Clinton, pay for play. The scandals, the public corruption case seems indisputable against the Clintons. Give us your judgment.
Well, I think just from what I've seen in the public domain, I have no inside information,
Right.
Lou. I mean, I hear from a lot of ex-agents who also are speculating on, you know, this unbelievable stuff that's going on. But from what I see, I think it's a classic RICO case, a racketeered influence corrupt organization. I mean, that's how we shut down the mafia in the 80s. You know, we arrested them all, we took all their assets, and, you know, I think with just a few subpoenas and a few search warrants, you know, you could make a RICO case against them.
Yeah, it is stunning, and you just heard talking about destroying all of the devices, the handhelds. Just on the face of this, the question comes back, how in the world did Comey not recommend prosecution?
You know, I can't get inside his head. No. You know, I think he had a weak moment. You know, I mean, you got to be a tough guy to be the FBI director. The FBI is all about due process, about the rule of law. Right. It's not about the Republicans or the Democrats or any of that. It's about justice for the lowest person on the totem pole to the highest person.
James Kallstrom, great to see you. Appreciate it.
My great pleasure. Thank you, Lou.
Thank you. We're coming right back. We're going to go to Donald Trump in just a moment. He is wowing the audience and vowing to drain the swamp in Washington. But just how deep is that swamp? We'll take that up here next. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Bring back
Donald
your
Trump
jobs.
in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, talking about fixing it and draining the swamp, loving that expression, and so do apparently most of the American people. We're going to have a lot more ahead as we try to tie all of these extraordinary events and personalities to one another in this web that has been, for the most part, spun by the Clinton cartel. We're coming right back with that and a lot more. Straight ahead. Stay with us. Clinton aide Huma Abedin may face considerable legal exposure based on her testimony during a 2015 sworn deposition with Judicial Watch. She said she turned over all devices used to send or receive email from Clinton's private server. Abedin made no mention of the additional devices that are now under investigation by the FBI. Attorneys for Abedin insist she had no idea that those devices could contain those emails. Joining me now, the president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. And Tom, great to have you with us. And I just want to say, you know, congratulations to you and your organization again on the wonderful investigations that you're carrying out and what you're revealing to the American public. It's extraordinary, and we're all very appreciative. Let's start with Abedin. Your judgment of the exposure that she faces now based on the testimony and the depositions she gave you and Judicial Watch.
You know, I was able to attend that deposition, and our lawyers were questioning her, and I obviously paid attention to that portion of the deposition. She seemed to be quite open about what she had done, so it was curious that this other laptop had been evidently held back. But taking a step back, the court had asked the State Department to make sure that Abedin Mills and Hillary Clinton turned over all the government records they took with them. Abedin's lawyers never confirmed that all the records had been turned over. And obviously, since then, we've been getting Abedin materials from a separate lawsuit that showed that she had classified information on her system, showed she was in constant communication with Hillary Clinton. She said she set up this email system on Hillary Clinton's server to take care of the family business for Hillary Clinton. Why is the FBI only getting this material now is beyond belief, and it shows you that if Abedin did something wrong, then the FBI screwed up, the State Department screwed up in letting her take the stuff to begin with, and of course Mrs. Clinton is in a similar boat with having left classified information along with Miss Abedin out on this unsecure server, whether it be the Clinton email server or Yahoo, whatever. It's like leaving it on the internet equivalent of a park bench.
You know, amongst the questions that occur is how could we be this far in the process without somebody having had asked and answered a very simple question. Who in the State Department authorized you to do this, as you said? Because otherwise she's lying. We know that she's lied numerous times as a result of WikiLeaks. We know that the State Department has acted at times as her advocate. What is going on within the State Department, in your judgment, the emails that you produced just yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, the State Department gave us documents from Abedin that they had gotten, by the way, Lou, in November of 2015. We're just getting them now, and they show more classified information on her system sent to her by Hillary Clinton, then forwarded by Abedin to another email account. They show another pay-to-play opportunity or allegation that looks like with Doug Band and Abedin and taking care of another major donor.
Doug Band of Teneo, the other
Teneo and the Clinton Foundation,
the other organization that's part of the Clinton cartel, and which has been variously, well, we'll see how that goes.
And at one point, Abedin was working for the foundation while working at the State Department.
And Teneo.
You know, I tell you what, Lou, I appreciate that Judicial Watch is getting credit for doing this work, but why is Judicial Watch's deposition the key aspect of figuring out what Abedin was up to? If the Justice Department and the FBI were doing serious investigations, they would know all of this because they would have had her before a grand jury. They'd have other witnesses before a grand jury. They would have subpoenaed all of her computer equipment.
Well, you know, Tom, that raises another
ago.
question, and the level of seriousness of the investigation. The first time, there was no grand jury. Reopened, based on the information that we learned about Friday. Is there a grand jury right now to support this investigation? Because if there's not, would you not suspect them of being less than serious at the FBI?
This Justice Department under Loretta Lynch is never going to call a grand jury. They're obstructing a current investigation that the FBI wants to conduct in a serious way into the Clinton Foundation, despite all the evidence of pay-to-play that is out there in the news and in the documents produced by the State Department themselves. We need a special counsel, Lou.
Okay, all right, but I understand that, Tom.
That's the only way you're going to get a grand jury.
But you're saying is that the Justice Department is so corrupt that it will not call. Are you saying the FBI and the Justice Department, because the FBI can also call for a grand jury, why would they not do so if they are absolutely serious about this investigation?
I guess because they're not serious about the investigation. The Justice Department the Justice Department comes out and says we're going to try to finish this as quickly as possible. That's not that shows you that's a political effort designed to help Mrs. Clinton not to say anything else,
or for anything else to be found out. Tom Fitton, thanks for finding out all that you do. Appreciate you being with us. Thanks.
You're welcome, Lou. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Up next, Donald Trump is promising a return to prosperity.
The political class in Washington has betrayed you. They've uprooted your jobs, your communities, and they've shipped your wealth all over the world. I will end the theft of American prosperity. Believe me.
The theft of American prosperity. And somebody stole our integrity, too. We're going to be talking with Trump supporter and investor, if you will, legendary investor Wilbur Ross. He joins me here next. Stay with us. We're coming right back with that and much more. One week until Election Day, more than 25 million voters have already cast early ballots. That's up, well, it's about double the number of early votes at this point in 2012. I mean, this is a huge effort on part of ostensibly the Democratic Party. The numbers of early voters in key battleground states rising. More than 8 million in Florida, we're told, nearly 6 million in both Ohio and Pennsylvania. Joining me now, billionaire investor Wilbur Ross, chairman, CEO of W.L. Ross & Company, one of the world's leading private equity firms, also economic advisor to the Trump campaign. Great to have you with us tonight, Wilbur, from beautiful Palm Beach. Let's turn to these polls that are turning. Your candidate is doing very well. What's the reaction among those who big money supporters of Donald Trump? Are they? We saw Adelson stepping up with 25 million. Is that becoming a movement of its own?
Well, even more than that, I was at a big Halloween party last night, and quite a number of folks who had supported Obama in both of his elections and who had been planning to support Hillary have said either that they're not going to vote at all or they're going to vote for Trump. They've had enough, finally.
Yeah, the corruption.
So that was my straw poll. Well, the corruption thing and the Obamacare.
Yeah, this is extraordinary to be looking at these numbers, and everybody's pointing now to Arizona, which is critically important. 116% increase in premiums. We're going to see on average, we're told somewhere around 25. I don't know how the average gets down to 25%, but that's what we're being told. Either way, Obamacare is devastated and on life support, seeking a bailout.
Well, it was never going to work. It was founded on wrong assumptions that assumed that healthy young people would pay the same premium as sick older people and just do it voluntarily. But for a program that allegedly was in great demand by the public, it's turning out they can't even force people to sign up for it.
Well, it was built on false assumptions, as you say, Wilbur. It was also built on lies and an administration that at no point has shown a great expertise in any part of public policy. And the Republicans can be grateful that they, not a one of them, voted for the thing. Let's turn to the economy. We're going to have the unemployment report coming up Friday. How is that important, do you believe, to the outcome of the election Tuesday, or is this are the big developments around the reopening of the email scandal of Hillary Clinton determinant?
Yeah, I assume that the employment report will be a fairly decent one on Friday. Given the way that the GDP figures turned out, it probably will be okay. But, you know, if you look into the gross domestic product figures that were released, about a third of that whole increase came from an improvement in our balance of trade.
Right.
And that ought to be a real wake-up call to the people who are saying balance of trade doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That was 1/3 of the whole economic gain,
Yep.
and a good bit of that came from soybeans.
Right. Well, like as it should for a great industrial superpower like ourselves. It should be from soybeans. Wilbur, great to have you with us. Wilbur Ross, thanks so much. Good to see you. Next, Donald Trump says he wants to fix what he sees as still a rigged election system. Beware, but vote.
Hillary is not the victim. The American people are the victims of this corrupt and rigged system. And on November 8th, that's your chance. We are going to change it.
We'll be talking about, well, corruption, electoral fraud with former Justice Department Attorney Christian Adams and what the likely impact is on the outcome of the election next Tuesday. Stay with us. We're coming right back with that. In our online poll last night, we asked, should we end early voting so citizens have as much knowledge of the candidates and events as possible? Nearly 80% of you said yes, absolutely. It's extraordinary, the number of people who've already voted well before Friday and all of this dramatic news about the reopening of the investigation into Hillary Clinton and her email scandal. Joining me now is Christian Adams, former U.S. Department of Justice attorney serving under both Presidents Bush and Obama. He's the president of the Public Interest Legal Foundation. Great to have you with us. And Christian, we're tonight, just in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Donald Trump at that rally talking about the rigged election here. How bad is it? We know that he's been able to put together his campaign, something like 1,700 poll watchers. How many are needed? Will they have effect? And how much fraud are we going to experience, do you fear?
Well, look, the left has been trying to alter the atmosphere for a year. Just this week, Lou, new lawsuits filed. North Carolina to try to stop voter roll cleanup. Pennsylvania, the left filed lawsuits there, the Democrat Party. The RNC was subject to a wicked court ruling just today on this 34-year-old consent decree that this federal judge is going to probe into Trump campaign plans to stop election fraud. And the DNC gets all the emails. This just happened today. So all of the structural things are happening.
Who are the people representing? I mean, that's just on its face stupid and makes no sense. So who are the lawyers representing the RNC?
Well, look, the RNC has their lawyers. The problem is this
they better get some new ones.
This federal judge is going to allow the DNC to probe into the Trump campaign on their election day plans to stop voter fraud. This is the sort of thing the left does. They litigate the election.
It's a statement of fact. Is that right? I mean, why would they? First of all, they'd have to make some judgment, would they not, that there is such a plan?
Yeah, they actually, the court ordered that the RNC just has about 48 hours to produce all of these documents to turn over the DNC. And look, the DNC believes that Jim Crow is riding the country to try to intimidate minorities from voting.
Let me slow down here just for a second. The DNC just had to replace all 3 of its top officials because they were crooked. They found out the interim director, the head of the DNC they just brought in, was crooked. She just fed questions to their candidate, who is crooked because she took the questions in the debate beforehand. And somehow the RNC is explaining itself? What kind of lawyers, what kind of judge are we talking about?
Well, you're talking about an Obama appointee. I can tell you that much.
Then what do we do? What happens next? We're really short on time.
Look, this is a part of a nationwide strategy to alter the system. In Virginia with provisional ballots. Okay, everywhere they play games with the rules to get votes.
So this is no surprise. I'm asking, what are the Republicans doing about it? What are the prospects for having a clean, straight election next Tuesday?
Well, we need to do more.
Okay, I'm going to do more, but I'm going to find out the next time we talk. What? Have you been talking to the RNC? Are they doing more?
Well, they're trying to do their best.
All right. Christian, with that, we are out of time. I apologize. Go